Hi everyone, and welcome to another week on Polyglots of the Week. Today is Monday, and I am Ed, and yeah, let's get to it. So, in case you were kind of living under a rock, or if you don't live in sort of the West in general, Christmas is coming in a couple of days. And so we thought that this might be an appropriate time of year for us to discuss sort of Christmas or holiday traditions around the world. Since I'm kind of the only representative for the Middle East, as far as Middle Eastern languages go, I thought I'd do something on the Middle East. Now, since Christians don't tend to be in the majority in the Middle East, or particularly I'm going to be doing the Arab world, Christmas hasn't gone through all the sort of secularization and commercialization that we see in the West, particularly in America. So it's still very much a religious holiday, and people still, go to Mass on Christmas Eve, or they go to some sort of service either Christmas Eve or Christmas morning. So a lot of the traditions that still exist around Christmas are still very religious ones. There are a couple, however, that don't particularly pertain to religion, besides, Mass and things like that. So I thought I'd share some of them with you. Now, I will point out, I did not get to be in the Middle East during the Christmas season. I lived in Jordan from January through May in 2012. So I never really got to experience all this. I heard this from professors, from talking to my host family, and from, reading online is sort of where my knowledge of Christmas comes from. So some of the facts that I have are purely from articles or things that I've read. So I'm hoping somebody will come along and sort of tell me if they're right or wrong or something. So in Jordan, they make something that's very similar to fruitcake. It has fruit, and it has some cake and some rum in it. But I believe they also make this at other holidays. I feel like I had this at some point, maybe around Easter or something. So I don't know if it's purely a Christmas thing or not. But I've been told that they definitely do that around Christmas. I read that in Iraq, they burn thorns, like it's a bonfire of thorns, and they burn it, and then however it burns is supposed to be representative of the next year for the family. So a good burning is when it all burns, and it all burns to ash. And then you're supposed to jump over the ash and make a wish. Lebanon, they plant seeds in cotton wool 2 weeks before Christmas, and then they take care of them for those 2 weeks, and then the sprouts should be ready in those 2 weeks, and they put them under the Christmas tree to represent, Christ's birth. Apparently, in some places, some of the more conservative groups still do a 40-day fast, much like they do before Easter, which I did experience around Easter. My host family, who was Eastern Orthodox, or Catholic, essentially, they fasted, but it was just meat. It was a meat fast for 40 days. Another sort of thing that I experienced because of Easter, but so when this happened, we also ended up discussing Christmas as well, is the whole choosing of what date Christmas and Easter take place on. So as many of you know, there's sort of this split within the Catholic Church, within sort of the traditional idea of a church. The split happened before sort of the Protestant Reformation, and so the split is that in the Western Church, which is Western Catholic Church, but as well as sort of like the Protestants too, because the split happened before that, there's like the dates that they use, and then there's the dates that the Eastern Orthodox, or in Arabic they call them the Rum, they use a different set of dates. So what happens is, as far as I'm aware, the dates are the same, but in the Western Church they use like the Gregorian calendar, whilst in the Eastern Church they still use the Julian calendar. So what happens is Christmas is still on December 25th, traditionally, because now in the East they use the Gregorian calendar, so it ends up being weird. But so December 25th is Christmas. In the West it follows the Gregorian calendar, so it happens on December 25th. In the East, while they use the Gregorian calendar for normal, everyday calendars, Christmas takes place on December 25th of the Julian calendar. So this pushes Christmas back to around January 7th or 8th, which is just right after Epiphany. But then Epiphany even gets pushed back even more. Some groups, particularly I know, for example, the Armenians in Jerusalem, also actually celebrate, they formally celebrate Epiphany which is January 6th. But then if they use the Julian calendar, that gets pushed back to about the 19th. So it's sort of a mess. When I was in Jordan, I know that what they've done there is they've sort of come to an agreement. So Christmas is celebrated on the Western date, on December 25th, and Easter is celebrated on the Eastern date, which is traditionally a week after the Western date, more or less, because Easter doesn't have a fixed date. So it sort of shifts. Now, since we talked about sort of Arab Christians in the Middle East and how they celebrate Christmas, I thought it would probably be appropriate if we learned how to say Merry Christmas or things like that. So, Christmas itself is referred to as Eid al-Milad. And so Eid is a holiday, Milad is birth. So you might be like, oh, birthday, because Eid Milad, birthday. Eid al-Milad is the birthday kind of thing. So that's how they refer to Christmas, because it's the birth, the important one, it's Christ's birth. So it's Eid al-Milad. If you want to go with a sort of plain greeting that in my mind sounds a bit sort of anglicized, you could say Eid al-Milad Sa'id, or Eid al-Milad Es-Sa'id, and it's like literally Happy Christmas, or Merry Christmas. Some people also say Milad Majid. Majid means like, it traditionally means glorious, but some people sometimes translate it as holy, or holy, but holy is normally like Muqaddas. So it's more glorious. That one, I think, carries more of a kind of religious connotation to it, rather than just a general Merry Christmas. Some people will also just say like Eid Sa'id, just a happy holiday kind of thing.